I've got an interesting project today. This is a box that was given to me to repair for someone. It's a family heirloom. It was made in California about 1980. I guess it fell off the wall in an earthquake. There's a breakage here on the front, a crack. There's some small cracks down here and some cracks on the top. I've never seen a box like this before, the way it's designed. It's glass. It's seamed with lead. Now, it seems challenging to make this with lead. How was this heated up and put in place without damaging the specimens? I don't know. But it was made about 1980, so it's been, what, 43 years, and there's no pest damage to the specimens, so it really was sealed up well. Since this is a family heirloom, it was important to try to repair it. I'm sure I can do it. The specimens are actually in very good shape. A little bit of cracking in the wings. The antennas are still intact, but you can see they're loose. They're knocked loose from there was a little pad of cork. You can see there that it was pinned into. So my challenge is to get this thing open and repair the butterflies and replace the broken glass. Now, I decided I'm just going to replace the top that you would look through. This fractures here are fairly not really noticeable, and the same with this. It's up at the top. You won't really see it. The cracks are just cracked in the glass. It's not going to break out. The cracks aren't going to let any pests in because it's tight. It's not a space that they can enter. And because this is sealed up with lead, on the inside seams, on the bottom, it has a lead seal. So I think to try and take this all apart and replace all three pieces of broken glass would be quite a challenge. And again, I don't think these matter that much. Also, I think these are kind of interesting. Since it's not affecting the structure of it, they're kind of the history. They're a remnant of the history of this thing. The fact that it fell off the wall in an earthquake, got broke, I don't know, I think that's kind of interesting. In the future, that'll be part of the story of this. So what I figured out, though, was this lead is fairly soft, and if I just take a razor blade and cut, I've experimented with it. Where did I do it? Over here. You can actually cut through the lead, and then you can use a razor blade. You can get underneath the lead here to loosen it, and then this can be lifted. And the top part of this box, the lead isn't sealed. There's not a lead bead on the inside of the top part. So if I cut this here on the corners, I should be able to lift this whole top piece off and then get a new piece of glass to replace the top. And I should be able to set this back in place pretty easily, and that'll restore it. And then I'll do some restoration on the specimens, and it should look pretty good. It should be good for another 40 years, hopefully. So the first step is going to be to cut this lead on the corner and between the glass so I can lift the whole thing up. Lead is fairly soft, so just using a razor blade like this, I'm able to get through it. I have to be careful not to cut myself. I should probably use a utility knife. I think I'll do that. It'll give me a little bit more control. This part, the razor blade works best. I'll just do this. See, the razor blade goes right underneath the lead. Yeah, I'm going to try a utility knife. I guess if I do slip and cut myself, that'll make for an exciting video. I'll try not to do that. Yeah, that gives me a lot more control. Yeah, it seems to be just lifting up nicely. Whoops. I've done a lot of repairs on boxes like this made of wood or plastic, and they were put together with some kind of an adhesive, and I could just cut the adhesive out. But I've never seen one made with lead like this. It seems like a challenge of construction. But then again, there were no pests inside, so apparently it worked. Get this. Yeah, so what I'm going to do is, I'm going to spare you all this detail. I'm going to use the X-Acto knife to cut the corners and to go underneath. Yeah, that just lifts right up. Look at that. And so I'll play with that, and then I'll turn the camera back on and see how far I've got. Alright, I'm making some progress here. What I'm doing is I'm just peeling up the edge of this. I should be able to lift this broken glass out. Yeah. Again, I've never done this before, so there seems to be a little edge stuck down in between. It's like it's brass or copper. There's a copper strip here. You might be able to see that. Yeah. I think when I reseal this, I'm going to have to use some kind of glue, because I'm certainly not going to heat up this lead and get it to seal. I mean, I'll push it back in place so that it looks right. But I don't know what kind of a torch. There must have been some kind of tiny torch that was used to heat this lead up. It's sort of irregular on the surface anyway, so it'll look consistent. There's a little bit of copper stuck. Yeah, it's like the copper's glued on. Okay, we're getting close. Or not. Maybe I can work from this crack. There's a little piece of loose glass here. Yeah. Gives me a little opening. Does appear to be some kind of glue. Oh, it's metal in between. Wow. Or is that lead? I think it is. No, it's copper. Wow. A copper lining on that whole thing. That's amazing. Built to last. Alright, we're in. I'm not sure how I'm going to put all that back together, but I'll cross that bridge when I get to it. Now, I don't want to damage these specimens, so I'm going to try and scoot this one over there. It's kind of miraculous that they're not damaged at all. Yep, there's copper strip. I wonder if it's like copper tape. I do have some aluminum tape. That might work. That might work well for repairing this. Yep. Wow. The copper on that? This is still intact enough that I can fold it. Ouch. Just cut myself. There you go. Oh, God. Little piece of glass in there. Ouch. I better put a band-aid on that or I'll bleed all over everything. But I can still fold this lead over the edge so that it looks right. I'm just going to take that off. Yeah, watch out for that glass. There it is. Okay, I better put a bandage on that. Alright, hole plugged. Alright, now let's see if this will come off. Oh. Oh yeah, this is loose. Yes. Here's the specimen. Yeah, there's some cracking on the wing down here. I can fix that. I'll show you how to do that. The legs have been removed, which is probably good. No, there's still one, but they often break off and then they are loose in there. Yeah, you can see the crack here in the wing. See that right there. I can fix that. And then the abdomen's supposed to be black. It's kind of brown. I might be able to color that up a little bit and make it look better. Here. Okay, now this one, it'd be nice if I could get it out of there now. Yes. This is the female. Yeah, there's a pretty serious crack there on the wing. You can see that right there. And back here on the bottom too, there's a crack right there I can fix. But slightly faded there on this wing too. You can see a crack. Slightly faded, but not bad. I mean, for 40 years. And you know, light will often fade these quite a bit if they're out in the sunlight. The UV breaks down the pigments in the wings, but this green on these doesn't really do that. It's more of a refractive structural color. So yeah, I can't believe the antennas are intact. That's amazing. Okay, so now I need to measure this piece of glass. I'll reassemble it here and measure it, and I'll go to the hardware store and have them cut me another piece of glass, and then I'll take the rest of this off and clean up the rest of the glass so it looks good. And so the next thing that we'll do is do specimen repair. Alright, so I'm removing, there's copper strip stuck to the back of this lead, and so I'm removing this copper strip. That way the lead will be much more flexible to replace it over the top of the aluminum tape. I'm definitely going to use aluminum tape to seal this up. But the copper strip, fortunately, seems to peel right off. If I can get a piece of it loose, I can just peel it right off and stretch. Look. Yeah, look at that. So this is going to work really well. Alright, so I've got the lead strips, all the coppers peeled off. You can see my pile of copper tape. And I trimmed the copper from this surface, but I left it on the top. I think this will be nice to set the glass on top of that. It'll sort of make a seal between the glass and the rest of the box. But I've trimmed it off the sides so it doesn't interfere with the tape I'm using, and I left a little strip right there since that's the fracture point to hold that all in place. Yeah, it's soldered on the inside. There's like a solder bead along the inside. That would be really difficult to take apart, I think. So this part's basically done. I'll peel these cork things off. I have a better way to attach that when I put the butterflies back in and clean all the glass and get it all nice and spiffy. And so now I'll run off to the hardware store, just take this piece of glass and reassemble it here, which is nice. It's all intact. And then I'll just, you know, make a measurement. How big is it? It's 9.5 by 7. So that should just be a few bucks. Hardware store's open. Alright, so I got the glass at the hardware store, and it fits perfectly. I just need to clean up the rest of this glass and get it ready to put the bugs in. But we're going to set this aside and work on fixing up these butterflies. Now, there's a technique for patching wing cracks, and a friend of mine, Steven, showed me how to do this. I use clear water-based glue. This is the kind I use. Different companies make it. And you want clear glue and not white glue, because white glue dries, it's kind of milky, you know, dry. It isn't clear. And when this stuff dries, it's clear. I use this for all of my bug repairs, attaching legs or antennas or whatever needs to be done. I always use clear glue. But it's a little bit thick for my purposes, and so I thin it out with water, about half and half. I have a little container here, and I'll put some water in it. And yeah, that's probably enough. Yeah, it really doesn't work unless you thin it out. It's got to be thin. And then I use a number 9 insect pin. It has a little ball on the head. That works well for this. So mix the glue up. It's not uncommon for a butterfly or moth wing to get cracked, especially, you know, to get really dried out older specimen, and they fracture, you know, along the lines usually of the wing, and this is just a good way to fix it up. As long as it's all intact, it'll work. So I mix this up and I'll get a little blob of glue on the end of the pin. Alright, so we'll start with this female. And you can see where the crack is. I get a little glue on the pin, and I start at the beginning of the crack. And it doesn't stick right away. You got to wave it back and forth a little bit, but eventually it gets a little glue into the crack, and then it kind of seals like capillary action. And then I just keep stroking the glue towards the edge along the crack, and the wing starts to come together. A little bit more glue. And I just keep spreading the glue farther out towards the edge. And as it grabs the surface of the wing, it pulls the edges together. It's not taking on the edge where it's real thin. I put my finger underneath it. Give me some pressure to work against. So that one's fixed. Now there's another one in the forewing. Right there, you can see it. So I'll